One of the verses that we read last Sunday was John 12:47. And it says, "If anyone hears my words, but does not keep them, I do not judge that person. For I did not come to judge, but to save the world." Interesting. We reflected on that last Sunday. It's not just about listening the words, but it's also about doing the words. You know, it's not about just listening, lift your hands to the Father, but not lifting your hands to the Father. It's not about listening to love one another, but not loving one another. But even in the midst of those difficulties of understanding the will of God, understanding the words of God in my life, He says, I am not here to judge you. I'm here to save you. I'm here to bring you in. I'm here to welcome you in. I'm here to love you. I'm here to forgive you. I'm here to respect you. I'm here to reconcile you with the Father. That's what I'm here for. And I think that is also a message for us. Because He says, do as I have done. Okay? Welcome to the sermon, Love to the End. So today we're going to go to chapter 13. And in verse 1, some of you know this story, some of you don't. But we're going to go through the story. Verse 1 says, "It was just before Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for Him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved His own who were in the world, He loved them to the end." So in this story today is the story where Jesus is going to wash the apostles' feet. Okay? And in this story, in this movie, and in this story, there is a lot of things happening at the same time. There is love and betrayal at the same time happening. There is service and surprise. There will be community and disconnection at the same time. There is difficult moments and there is funny moments at the same time. A lot of things are going to happen in this story. And then we go into verse 1, and John is saying, He loved them. He loved them to the end. And there is this emphasis on love before and now that he's going to talk and he's going to show this example of washing other people's feet. John is telling the audience, you and me, that he loved them to the end. Because it's easy to start loving a person. Not only that's easy. You know, there's a one moment where we get together, we like each other, now we love one another. But it's not easy to love to the end. Because a lot of things happen in between. You know, there's difficult moments, there is maybe fights, there is arguments, there is difficult situations that you have to go through. It's maybe easy to start loving a person, but it's not easy to love them to the end. And now there's a lot of things that are going to happen in the story that is going to be more like, wow, he actually loved them to the end. Even in the midst of those situations that were happening at the time, he loved them to the end. And that's what we're going to see right now. Verses 2 and 3. It says, The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God, and he was returning to God. Jesus knew that Judas was there. Jesus knew that Judas was going to betray him. Jesus knew that he was going to return to the Father. You know, it's like if you're going to leave something, you can just blow it up and then you just leave, you know. That's it. Figure it out, guys, and good luck. He could have done that. He knew what was going on. He knew his timing. He knew he was going to leave. He knew that Judas was there. But he chose to love them to the end. He chose to love instead of doing something different in this situation. Now we're going to see what's happening. Verses 4 and 5. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. It was during the meal. They were in the table. It is comfortable to be in the table. It is comfortable to be eating with people. It is comfortable to be served by other people, or you just have to eat. It is not comfortable to stand up to go and serve people. That is not comfortable. But Jesus chose to be uncomfortable when he could have been comfortable in that situation. He could have chosen to be comfortable. He could have chosen, at this point, he have done so many things, so many miracles, so many messages, so many multiplying, so many healings, so many a bunch of things. And the time is coming that he is going to go through cross and suffering and death and all that. He can be just like, you know what? Let me just relax this day. I'm too tired for this. But he chose to stand up, get out of that circle, and go and serve people. It's comfortable to be at the table. It's comfortable to be in the circle. It's comfortable to be with people that you like. But getting out of our comfort zones to do something unexpected isn't comfortable. And that's why sometimes we get so used to being comfortable that we don't want to stand up to do anything else. We get so used to be comfortable that we don't want to do anything. We just want people to serve. You know? Like you should be doing it. Are you not here to do it then? Like we're so comfortable in the table, participating in the meal with Jesus, that we don't want to stand up to do anything. It is so comfortable to be in the place. They actually should have washed Jesus' feet. They should have served Jesus instead of Jesus serving them. But he chose to do it because he loved them to the end. He chose to do that because he was showing them love by serving them, by setting an example, by washing their feet. How sometimes we get comfortable and avoid standing up to serve. How so many times it happens that we get comfortable that we avoid to love. Because love means doing something. Love sometimes means getting out of my comfort zone. Love sometimes means loving the people that we don't like. And that is hard. So I would rather stay here in the table and be served. And have fun. And eat. I would rather get more drinks. Can we have another drink, please? Yeah, can we have another round for everybody? I'll pay for it. I'd rather do that than standing up and love people. Sometimes I get comfortable that I don't stand up to wash other people's feet. And that's, Even today, it's crazy to think about that idea of washing other people's feet. You know? It was difficult at the time. They didn't have sandals and stuff like that. We get it right now. It will be complicated to do it right now in the present. You know? It is crazy to think about washing other people's feet. So for that reason, everybody please take off your shoes. How are we going to do that? We are not going to do that today. I'm not going to get out of my comfort zone today. Just kidding. But take that feeling of me telling you take off your shoes and multiply that thing, because it was Jesus, the one who was saying, take off your sandals. It was Jesus, the one that was asking the disciples to do that. And in those days, they didn't have highways and things like that. They didn't have cars. It was going to be a disgusting process. It was not going to look nice. Multiply that, and let's see what happened after that. Because even in the midst of that disgusting situation, Jesus chose to do that. Verse 6 and 7. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? Jesus replied, you do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand. Lord, are you going to wash my feet? And sometimes we are like Peter. Lord, are you going to do this to me? And then we start thinking about things, self-sabotaging ourselves, and start thinking about why I don't deserve to get that from Jesus. Because I'm not enough, because I am a sinner, because this, and because that, because I don't deserve this, and because I don't deserve that. Lord, are you going to do that to me? And I don't know if you have been there at some point. You have been experiencing some kind of love from Jesus, from a community, from some people, and you're like, Lord, are you going to do that to me? No. Lord, are you going to do that to me? It's like, no, I don't deserve that. Let me do something to you, Jesus says. And sometimes we're like, Lord, are you going to do that to me? No. But there are some times where the only thing that you need to do is to sit down and listen to Jesus and let him do what he's going to do. Because he's like, Lord, are you going to do this to me? No. Then you start and Jesus is like, hey, sit down. Like, just shut up and sit down. Lord, are you going to do this to me? Shut up and sit down. But sometimes there's some anxiety that pulls up from within us that we don't want to stop to receive something from Jesus, to be blessed by Jesus, to be loved by Jesus. We think we don't deserve it. We think we're not good enough. We think this and that and that. That we try to overcome those insecurities and those feelings of, no, I'm not enough, I'm not loved, I'm not this and I'm not that. So I try to get busy to overcome those realities that I have within me. Because when I sit down and let him do something, now I'm going to start realizing, oh, shoot, I think that I don't deserve this. Oh, shoot, I think that I'm not good enough. Oh, I think all those things. And Jesus is like, relax. Let me love you. Let me serve you. In a way that is unexpected. You do not realize what I'm doing right now. And I think that's interesting also, because how many times we do not realize what he's doing in the present. There's so many times that we're thinking about what's going on right now. This is just going so crazy. And Jesus is like, you do not realize what I'm doing now. You do not realize what I'm doing now. There are some actions, some situations that we don't get right now. But I like that Jesus just don't leave it there. You do not realize what I'm doing now. Good luck. He says, but you will understand later. There is a moment in life when you're going to go back to this moment, to the present that we're having right now. You're going to be like, oh yeah. Yep, he was right. Yeah, I wasn't getting it at the time. Yes, I see it right now. But sometimes it takes months, years, frustrations, going down, coming up, and going down again, and coming up again to going like, oh, well, I realized what he was doing 10 years ago. You do not realize this, Peter, but you're going to get it at some point. But here's the thing that I also like about this situation. Jesus says, Peter, you do not realize what's happening now. So let me explain what's going on right now. No, you do not realize what's happening now. So when you get it, I'll come back to you and I'll wash your feet. You do not realize what's happening now. So when you figure everything out, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you love. Right? You need to figure everything out right now. Otherwise, I'm not going to wash your feet. Did he say that? He pretty much said, you don't realize it now and you don't need to realize it. At some point, you're going to get it. That's okay. Let me love you. Let me serve you. But sometimes we get stuck in that idea. I need to understand everything. I need to have everything figured out. Just sit down and let yourself experience the love of God in an unexpected way, in a way that you have never experienced before. It was the first time that he was going to wash their feet, as far as we know, and it was probably the last time that he was going to do it, as far as we know. We don't have another story about that. And sometimes you are also expecting the love of Jesus in this particular way. So when he shows up and shows his love in another way, I'm like, you're not going to do that to me. Shut up, sit down, and let me do it. But I don't get it. You don't need to get it. You're actually not going to get it. And that's okay. I don't need you to understand what's happening right now for me to show you my love. I don't need you to get and to figure everything out for me to show you and to serve you in this capacity. Just sit down and let me love you. Don't worry about if you get it or not. Let me take care of you. That's basically what Jesus was saying. And I don't know what kind of season are you in life, but if you're in the middle of that season where you're like Peter, you are not going to do that to me, Jesus. What if you shut up, sit down, and let Jesus do something for you? Something that I'm not going to be able to do from a sermon, something that I'm not going to be able to do from singing, something that we as a community are not going to be able to do maybe, but something that unexpectedly Jesus can do. And it's something that is going to be magic if it's coming from Jesus. But that was Peter. That was Peter's reaction. Jesus said, hey, let me do it. But that was not the whole conversation. Verse 8 and 9. No, said Peter, you shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Then, Lord, Simon Peter replied, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well, like wash my body. That's like so Peter. That's so me and you sometimes. And this part, it's really interesting. Peter is telling Jesus, you shall never. Sorry, Peter. My bad. I didn't know I couldn't do this. I didn't know I couldn't act in this way. Peter, can you tell me what to do and what not to do? You shall never do this to me. And I wonder how many times do we tell Jesus, you shall never? How many times, with Jesus it's easy, how many times do we tell the Holy Spirit, you shall never? You shall never. Oh, wow. What an interesting position for you, Danny, to tell me. It's like kind of like the conversation with Job. Oh, Job, are you going to tell me these things? Let me ask you a few questions. Let me ask you a few questions. Were you when I was creating everything? It's like, maybe no. You shall never, Jesus, do this. And it was happening at the time, okay? They were thinking about all the time this. The religious leaders and a lot of people were thinking, Jesus, you shall never go and talk to that person. You shall never go and have dinner in that person's house. You shall never go and have communication with that community. You shall never go and touch a person with leprosy. You shall never go in that place. You shall never do this and you shall never do that. And guess what Jesus did? I was like, I don't care. But I wonder how many times do we tell Jesus, you shall never do this to me. You shall never do this to us. You shall never do this to these people. You shall never do this to this community. You shall never do that. How dare are you to tell Jesus that he shall never do something that he wants to do and that he is going to do anyway? I wonder how many blessings do we block when we tell Jesus, you shall never. Not because he stops doing because you tell Jesus that you shall never, but because from that moment on, you tell yourself he is never going to do that, and you block the action itself. Jesus is actually washing your feet, but you're thinking he's not doing that to me. Jesus is actually doing something for this community, and you're thinking that's not possible. That's not Jesus. That's not the Jesus that I know. That's not the Jesus that I follow. That's not the Jesus that I will be having a meal with. That's not the Jesus, because Jesus shall never do something like that. I wonder how many times do we get in those situations, Jesus, you shall never. How dare are you and me to say, Jesus, you shall never do anything. Good reflection from Peter. Verses 10 and 11. Jesus answered. And it was also funny that Peter said, if in that case, then. Because it was also interesting that Jesus said, well, if you don't let me do this, you have no part with me. Ooh. He wasn't like, who are you talking to me about this? It was like simple, nice, smart. Okay, that's okay. If you think that I should not do it, if you think that how are you going to do that to me? If you think that, okay, let's do it your way. But if we do it your way, you have no part with me. No, then wash my feet. They'll wash everything of me. So like me, many times. Verse 10 and 11, Jesus answered, those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you. For he knew who was going to betray him, And that was why he said not everyone was clean. And it's interesting because at this point, he starts creating tension and doubt in the table. Confusion. What is going on? What is he talking about? How is it that one of you is going to betray? What are you talking about, Jesus? You know? And it's interesting also that at this point, it sounds like in the story that he had already washed everybody's feet. And if we say everybody's feet, that includes the same one. But when we have a person that we know is betraying us or is going to betray us, do you think I'm going to serve that person? Do you think I'm going to love that person? Do you think I want to wash that person's feet? And we can have a bunch of excuses to not do that. But Jesus was setting an example. And we're going to talk about that this coming Sunday. What is going on right now? Verse 12. When he had finished washing their feet, it sounds like everybody, or John will have made the distinction, but not Judas. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. And I think this is a good question. Because Jesus is always doing something. Jesus is constantly doing something. The Holy Spirit is always moving and doing something. Whether we notice it or not, He's doing something. He's not just taking a nap right now and He's going to come back 2 hours later. He's always doing something, whether we notice it or not. The question is, do you understand what I have done for you? Because I think sometimes things are happening and we don't realize, we don't notice that. So when Jesus asks us, do you understand what I'm doing? No, I didn't even know what you did. I don't know what you're doing, actually. I cannot see what you're doing. Because I can only see bad things. I can only see terrible things happening. I don't understand what you're doing. And that's actually a pretty good question. Do you understand what Jesus is doing for you right now? Do you understand what Jesus is doing in your present, in your life, right now? Do you understand why you are here this morning with us? You could have been somewhere else. Do you understand what Jesus is doing with you right now? Do you understand what I'm doing? Because sometimes we think about the apostles and we're like, how can they not understand? Yeah, let me ask you the same question. Do you understand what Jesus is doing in your life? He shall never. Verses 13 through 17. This is the last verses. You call me teacher and Lord. And rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. He has set an example. The Lord chose to serve in one of the lowest ways. Because if you think about it, he could have chosen to serve in another way. He could have said, guys, today you're not going to serve the tables. I'm going to do it. That would have been beautiful and nice and good enough, right? He didn't need to go that crazy way. He could have said, you know what, guys? Today I'm going to do this for you. Please sit down and I'm going to serve the tables. That would have been beautiful and nice, right? But he didn't choose that way. He chose kind of like a lowest way, because in the context, the only people that will do something like that is like really low servants with really powerful people, or like a wife to a husband. But there's this dynamic of power that was displaying at the time. You know, very, very low people, low key, low church, like low positions, low everything, with really high, powerful people. That was the temple that he said. He could have said, let me just serve the tables. but chose to do something crazy. And why was that? First, because he loved them to the end. That's why he said in verse 1. And second, because he was going to set an example. This is what you need to look at. If you're trying to think about how to love one another, this is the way I'm showing you. If you're thinking about serving one another, this is the way I'm showing you. The Lord, the Master, the Son of God came to this earth, but I'm now washing your feet. What does it mean? Do you understand what I'm doing? Jesus said. And we're probably thinking at this time, no. Because he could have do something different, like anything. I brought this letter for you. I'm turning this water into wine, so we're going to have the best wine at this point. He could have done anything. I'm going to multiply food, so it's like a buffet, and you're going to eat till you're satisfied. He could have done anything. Why is he washing the disciples' feet? Why is he going that low? Why is he teaching that? Why is he teaching that? And maybe he knew that we have something inside that is normally the opposite of that situation. That is normally trying to do something different, but he's choosing to set that example so that we can learn something about that. He chose to wash their feet. And now he's telling us, go and do likewise. But I guess in the same way that we read other verses, we just process them as words, but we do not match with them. So we're going to go after this week, and we're just going to be the same person. And we're going to keep doing the same things. We're going to keep asking Jesus, why are you doing this to me? You shall never do this, and you shall never do that. And I'm going to keep just treating people the way I have treated people. And I'm just going to keep loving people the way I think I should love people. But now that you know, Jesus says, because maybe if you didn't know before, that's okay. If you don't know something, how are you going to act out of that something that you don't know? But now that you know, go and do it. And it's with what you know, not with what you don't know. Okay? It's not that you have to do something that, what could it be? Jesus taught you already what to do. What are some of the messages, what are some of the examples from Jesus that you know but you don't do? What are some of the things that you know from Jesus? Sometimes we are like, let's have another Bible study, let's do more, let's do this. What if you take just what you know and do something about it? What if we take what we know right now and we'll do something about it? What if every sermon is not longer a sermon, but is a conversation of how are we going to do the things that we learned in Micah? How are we going to do the things that we learned in the relationship between Paul and Peter and when we were studying last year? What if at this point we just learn from chapter 13 and we just go and do it? What if every Sunday is going to be a conversation about that instead of a sermon? Guess what will happen? People will feel uncomfortable. People will feel that now we're taking people out of the comfort zones, and people are probably going to blow up. You shall never do that, Danny. You're here to preach. I'm going to be preaching, okay? In your context, what does it mean to wash other people's feet? And now I have to go and take their shoes. Hey, do you understand what I'm saying? But that's this guy. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not about the action of washing every people's feet. Because you can be doing it and your heart can be somewhere else. Oh my gosh, what I'm doing this is disgusting. These feet are horrible. That's not the case. That's not the point. In your context, in your life, in your situation, with your family, with your community, with your friends, what does it mean to love other people's feet? He's saying, the way I did it, now go and do it. Now that you know these things, go and do it. And then Jesus said, you will be blessed if you do them. You will be blessed if you do them. Mary Alice normally reminds me, that was the first sermon that I did. You will be a blessing. That was the title of that sermon. It wasn't, I'm not sure if that was my first Sunday here, or it was the Sunday that I came for interviews and all that. And that was the sermon that I gave. I think it was there, yeah. You will be a blessing. Jesus is saying right now, these things that you know right now, because I have told you so, go and do those things. You don't need to do the other things. You don't need to do what you don't know. You don't need to understand Revelation. You don't need to understand Isaiah. You don't need to go and understand the Bible. But these things that you know, go and do them. And if you do them, you're going to be blessed. And I wonder how many blessings do we miss because we're trying to do something else. How many blessings do we miss because we're trying to serve Jesus? Okay? When He is telling me, sit down, let me serve you. You will be blessed if you do them. What are some of those things that I need to start doing to be blessed? To follow His example, to be His disciples. And let this sermon be a reminder of how sometimes big moments of transformation comes when we get out of our comfort zones. Like, it was a big situation. It was a big moment. He was setting an example, stepping out of his comfort zone. And how many times transformational things happen when something unexpected, when discomfort is happening in the place. A lot of the times in Jesus' miracles, it was something that was not comfortable. When the Holy Spirit was showing up in the book of Acts, it was like crazy people were like, they probably are drunk. You know? But we try to find more conformity, more, like everything has to be the same. But sometimes Jesus is everywhere, and we just want to be here in our comfort zones. But how, like in this situation, Jesus is showing that sometimes when you get out of the comfort zone, something transformational and powerful is going to happen if you let me do something in this place. If you let me do something right now. Let this also be a reminder of how to show love to others. Sometimes we think, I don't know how to show love to that person. Well, go back to Jesus. I don't know how to take care of this situation. Like, go back to Jesus. Let's move from knowledge to action. You like that? Yeah? Do you like that? Let's move from knowledge to action. Let's move from waiting to serving. Let's just waiting to be served or to stand up and serve. Let's move from eating to washing other people's feet. Eating is nice. Washing other people's feet? Let's move from that to this. Let's move from condemning to loving. And can we do that? Judas was in the room. And we're going to talk about that more next Sunday. But at this point, Jesus hasn't condemned Judas. All right? Just to this part of the story? No. But he has showed love to Judas in the middle of that situation. Let's move from condemning to loving. Let's move from thinking or overthinking to do it. So that we can love one another to the end. God bless you.